Edward Archibald. One day, Edward Archibald was looking for a wild challenge. He entered a bizarre contest in 2012 at Ben Seidel Reptiles in Florida, but this wasn't your typical competition. It was a roach eating contest where participants had to swallow live cockroaches and other insects as fast as possible. Gross? Absolutely. Dangerous? No one thought so at the time. He went all in, stuffing handfuls of wriggling roaches into his mouth like they were popcorn. Crunch, chew, swallow, repeat. While others gagged, Edward powered through, determined to win. And guess what? He did. He ate more bugs than anyone else and became the champion. But before he could enjoy his victory or regret his life choices, things took a turn for the worse. Moments after the contest, Edward felt sick, collapsed, and was rushed to the hospital. Sadly, he didn't make it. Doctors later discovered the reason: he had choked on roach parts. His airway was blocked by bug legs, wings, and who knows what else. To make matters worse, he had a pre-existing condition that made it harder for him to breathe. And the grand prize for all of this, a python. That's right, he went through all that for a pet snake he never got to take home. Talk about a contest that literally bugged him to death. Bobby Leach. In 1911, Bobby Leach did something crazy. He went to Niagara Falls, climbed into a steel barrel, and dropped 167 feet down the falls. And no, that's not how he died. Somehow he survived and lived to tell the tale. After that, he became the second person ever to go over Niagara Falls in a barrel and once again survived. He broke a lot of bones and spent 6 months in the hospital, but that didn't stop him. After recovering, he traveled the world, bragging about his death-defying stunts. But in 1926, after years of cheating death, something completely ridiculous happened. While walking down a street in New Zealand, he slipped on an orange peel or a banana peel, depending on the story. That simple fall broke his leg, and the injury became infected. Doctors had to amputate his leg, but complications followed, and despite all his daring stunts, he died from something as ordinary as a fall. The craziest part, he survived one of the most dangerous stunts in history, only to be taken down by a piece of fruit. Life is weird. One minute you're a fearless daredevil, the next you're defeated by breakfast leftovers. Gustav Cabet. On July 27, 1918, Cabet was enjoying a peaceful afternoon, sailing alone in his little boat near Long Island, New York. Just him, the water, and some fresh air. It was the perfect escape from writing and debating opera. Then, out of nowhere, a U.S. Navy seaplane came flying low over the bay and landed right on top of Cabet's boat. The poor guy saw it coming and tried to jump into the water, but there wasn't enough time. The plane crashed into the boat's mast, which then struck his head, splitting it wide open. His death was considered bizarre because seaplane accidents were rare, and the chances of one hitting a lone boater were almost impossible. Frank Hayes. Frank Hayes wasn't exactly a superstar jockey, more of a part-time rider, full-time horse trainer. But on June 4, 1923, at Belmont Park in New York, he did something that no other jockey in history has ever done. He won a race while completely 100% dead. At some point during the steeplechase, Hayes suffered a fatal heart attack, likely from the stress, excitement, and the ridiculous weight loss jockeys go through before a race. But instead of dramatically falling off his horse like in the movies, he somehow stayed perfectly in place, literally dead in the saddle. And sweet kiss, she kept running like nothing happened. She crossed the finish line first, making Frank Hayes the first and only jockey to win a race while dead. Just imagine the scene. The crowd goes wild, trainers are cheering, the announcer is screaming, and Hayes takes the win, only for someone to realize the guy isn't celebrating. Sweet Kiss was immediately retired after the race. To this day, Frank Hayes holds the record for most impressive and concerning example of commitment in sports history. He literally gave it his all, heart and soul. Clement Vallandigham. In 1871, Vallandigham was defending Thomas Magehian, who was accused of killing Tom Myers during a bar fight. Magehian claimed that Myers had accidentally shot himself during the struggle. As a skilled lawyer, Vallandigham came up with a convincing plan to prove his client's innocence. To show how easily a gun could go off during a fight, he decided to reenact the scene. He gathered a few fellow defense attorneys in his hotel room and demonstrated how Myers could have shot himself. Believing the gun was empty, Vallandigham placed it in his pocket and acted out the moment. As he stood up and reached for the gun, it went off, firing a bullet into his stomach, proving his point but at the cost of his own life. He later died from the wound, but his argument was so convincing that his client was found not guilty. Sherwood Anderson. In early 1941, Anderson and his wife took a cruise to South America for a relaxing vacation. During the trip, he accidentally swallowed a toothpick, most likely while eating or drinking. The sharp toothpick got stuck inside him without him realizing it. Soon after, Anderson began experiencing severe stomach pain. At first, he may have thought it was just indigestion, but the toothpick had already damaged his organs, leading to a serious infection called peritonitis. As his condition worsened, he sought medical help in Colón, Panama. However, at that time, medical treatments were limited, and antibiotics like penicillin were not widely available. On March 8, 1941, Anderson died from the infection at the age of 64. Humberto Hernandez. Humberto Hernandez, a 24-year-old from Oakland, tragically died in a freak accident in 2007. He was walking with his wife when a car crashed into a fire hydrant. The water pressure sent the heavy hydrant flying through the air, hitting him in the back of the head. The impact was so strong that he died instantly, leaving bystanders and his wife in shock. The driver, stunned by what had happened, stepped out, realizing the tragic consequences of the crash. Emergency responders arrived, but there was nothing they could do. The accident was so bizarre that it left the community in disbelief. Humberto's story remains a tragic reminder of how unpredictable life can be. Jane McDonald's. On May 27, 2003, Jane McDonald was visiting a friend when a terrible accident happened. While walking through the kitchen, she slipped and fell. Unfortunately, she landed on an open dishwasher where a sharp knife was standing upright. The knife cut her badly, causing serious injuries. Her friend quickly called for help and paramedics rushed her to the hospital. Doctors tried their best to save her, but the injury was too severe. Sadly, she did not survive. Thornton Jones. Thornton Jones was a British lawyer whose bizarre and tragic death remains one of the strangest ever recorded. One morning, he woke up suddenly and for unknown reasons bit his own tongue so hard that he completely cut it off. The severe injury caused massive bleeding, and despite attempts to stop it, he died shortly after. Before passing away, he managed to write a note saying, "I dreamed that I had done it. I awoke to find it was true." Experts believe his death may have been caused by a severe nightmare, a sleep disorder, an epileptic seizure, or an uncontrollable muscle spasm. His final words suggest he may have acted on an unconscious impulse while dreaming. What makes his death so unusual is that the body naturally avoids such self-harm, and the fact that he dreamed about it before waking up to find it had actually happened adds a strange, almost supernatural twist. Mrs. Eckersley. In the quiet town of Glen Innes, New South Wales, an ordinary day took a tragic turn when Mrs. Eckersley was found drowned in a cask of water. The unusual circumstances left many puzzled. How could someone drown in such a small container? It was believed that she had been leaning over the cask, possibly to get a drink or check the water level. Then something unexpected happened. She suddenly fainted. With no way to catch herself, she fell forward, her head and upper body plunging into the water. The cask was deep enough, and her position made it impossible for her to lift herself out. Trapped and unconscious, she tragically drowned before anyone could come to her aid. By the time she was discovered, it was too late. The bizarre accident left the town in shock, as no one could have imagined such an unfortunate fate.